Go ahead and do your share by sharing and tagging and texting and liking and following and doing everything, because today we're going to be talking to Integrative Cardiologist Dr. Stephen Sinatra. So let me go ahead and get started with the microphone or record. I want to record for all of you. And here we go. So today we are talking with Dr. Stephen Sinatra, an integrative cardiologist. And today we're going to talk about the emotional component of our heart. What can we do? So we're going to fasten our seatbelts because we are going to learn and grow together. Dr. Sinatra, it's time to dance. Here we go.
Time to dance. Okay, that's
here
right. I forgot about your dancing.
That's right. Now you remember, huh? Here.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, like I said earlier, before we started the podcast, we have integrative cardiologist, internal medicine, double board certified in so many different things. I would say so many board certified. You could list. He'll tell you a little bit more about himself in a few minutes. But he knew early on in his career how important that we were more than just people that we needed to pop a pill, or that the body was more than what he was learning in medical school. So he was fortunate enough to get the other side and see other things that other doctors do not see. And so he's talked about the electrical component, how we're energy, and we are an emotional being. But how does our behaviors, the way we think, the way we feel, the way we act, affect our heart? Well, we're grateful that Dr. Stephen Sinatra is here to help us learn a little bit more about our body and how we can maybe prevent some of these things so we can achieve optimal health. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Stephen Sinatra is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Sinatra, to the classroom.
Oh, thanks so much, Lillian, for that nice, kind introduction.
Well, you know, you are a Swiss Army knife of cardiologists because you focused on the mind. So you have psychotherapy, you focus on nutrition, you focus on the heart and internal medicine. So you have a really good view of the body. So share a little bit about why you have a little bit different view of the body than most cardiologists.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, one of the things I learned as a heart specialist very early in my career, I became a board certified internist back in 1975, and I was a cardiology fellow, and we were working in the defense industry in Hartford. In other words, I was at St. Francis Hospital, but there was Colt Firearms there. The Groton sub base was about 30 miles down. Pratt Whitney was about 7 to 8 miles away. In other words, these were the big defense industries. And what I learned, and I was only in my early 30s. What I learned was that I was seeing men who lost their jobs because of the winding down of the Vietnam War was actually at its end. And these aeronautical engineers, these double PhDs, these very specialized men were getting heart attacks. And they were in their like late 30s. They were a little bit older than I was. And it bothered me. And here I am in the cath lab, and I'm doing angiograms on guys either my age or a little bit older than me. And I really got that emotional stress, especially the loss of self-esteem, the loss of a job, just pure emotion and uncertainty was so huge. I decided to go into a psychotherapy training program when I entered in my first year of fellowship. And I did 2 years of Gestalt psychotherapy with some Fritz Perls disciples, just to learn more about mind-body medicine, because I was living it and I was seeing it. So then after 2 years of Gestalt therapy, there was a book on the reading list by Dr. Alexander Lowen. It was called Bioenergetics. And Lillian, I read this book and I said, oh my God, I got to meet this author. This guy was phenomenal. So I met him. I ended up doing a workshop with him in New York City. And then I became one of his last students. And I spent 10 years in bioenergetic analysis, and I was in a 10-year training program, and I became certified as a psychotherapist. And I've got to tell you, it was tougher than going to medical school. It really was rough. It was a long process where you really got to turn yourself inside out, so to speak. I mean, you go through therapy yourself, you work with other therapists, you got to bring clients into the room, you're in a fishbowl, you're doing therapy in front of, other therapists. It was a really interesting process, and I'm really glad I did it.
Well, I am glad you did it too. When you think about psychology or psychotherapy or psychiatry, really you don't have to do anything other than look at the symptom. There isn't, like, when you're in the cath lab, you could look at the heart, you can look at the veins, you can do whatever it is that you're looking for. When you're there, you're able to kind of measure. And when somebody gets an x-ray, you can measure how bad is the bone break, but when it comes to the emotional component of someone, there's really no measurement. There's talk, I can tell you about it, but how deep and how deep it is in my body and where it's storing and all of that, that's not measurable, is it?
No, not really. Although I will say this, and again, I learned this all by accident because there was no literature on it. I remember in my practice of cardiology, I had about 4 or 5 patients that had very bad blood pressure, and I couldn't get their blood pressures down. I tried diet therapies, exercise, pharmaceutical therapies, nutraceutical therapies. Lillian, I tried everything. And I just, and then I said, okay, maybe these people have bizarre tumors of the adrenal gland, or maybe their thyroid glands are overactive, or maybe they have constriction of a renal artery. I turned these people inside out. I found nothing. What is going on here? And then I realized because it happened by accident. One of my patients came in and I caught him in a lie. And I said, oh, that's a misrepresentation of the truth. And then he said to me, oh, I always do that. I go, really? You don't tell the truth? He goes, no, I lie all the time, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, oh my God, I realized this only about maybe fully realized it after I did the research on grounding. I'm talking about 15 years ago, because, my career as a doctor has been about 50. But then when I did the research on earthing and grounding, and I realized that when you lie, you are going against the autonomic nervous system. In other words, it's a self-betrayal. It's a betrayal of self, because your autonomic nervous system, your primitive nervous system, knows the truth. So when you lie, now you're going against the natural homeostasis, the natural workings of the body.
Wow.
And the body and the brain says, or the primitive brain says, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. I'm going to give you a blip. And that blip turns into a hypertensive response. It's what we call hyperarousal of the autonomic nervous system. So when I realized that in one patient, when my other patients came in, I just asked them a question. I said, by the way, do you tell the truth all the time? And people would say, sometimes, many times I don't, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw a pattern that my worst hypertensives were habitual, liars. So,
oh my God, but that's not saying, you're not saying, and I'm it's like disclaimer, Dr. Sinatra's not saying that if you have high blood pressure, you're a big fat liar.
right, I'm not saying that.
You're not
I'm
saying
just
that.
saying that I saw a connection empirically, and it took me 35 years to figure it out.
Yeah, but if you have high blood pressure and lying is your thing, look into it. So, Dr. Sinatra, that is so important that we get to know really truly ourselves. I do a workshop, and the workshop is called the Nutri Series, I Am the Solution. And the I am is God in us. The I am the solution. So that's where it comes from. And in that, I talk about the mindset, the thoughts, and how it all starts. But one of the things that I learned, and I don't know if you know who Dr. Mona Lisa Scholes is, but she's been in my classroom many, many times. And I took a medical intuition course by her in Maine. And this is one of the things I share in the workshop that I just happened because I just finished doing this workshop.
Yeah, the
But
chakras
it's,
there, huh?
yeah, it's where it's the chakra centers, the healing centers in our body, that if we have like a past trauma, that's where it gets stored.
Right.
In that
Right.
particular area in the body. So since we're talking, and so you're aware of this by your response, because we didn't talk beforehand, but by your response, this is something that you're obviously aware of. So because it's the heart, and I was looking at the heart, and the heart, the breast, the lung, it's about partnership, nurturance, and expression of feelings. And so when you said that if somebody's lying, that it's going to like throw everything off, because now you're not telling the truth about your feelings. You're not telling the truth about how you feel or about something or situation. But isn't it amazing how things are so connected, and they could be very simple if we would be willing to look at ourselves and what's really going on deep, deep inside.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even Louise Hay, who wrote all the work on cancer. I mean, she would say that resentment, that's a rough emotion. Let me tell you, resentment was a source of breast cancer. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And look, where's the breast? It's in the fourth chakra. It's right in that, it surrounds the heart, right?
Yeah.
So like, in other words, whenever you're dealing with the fourth chakra, these emotions are really important. I don't know if we talked about this before, but when I was a heart specialist, when I saw patients who had a heart attack, and if they came home to a lonely house, if they were divorced or if their spouse died, or if they came home to a lot of hostility in the house after a heart attack, let's say a judgmental spouse, for example, these people, I would see them again in the emergency room. However, if my patients who were lonely and they had an empty house to go home to or a judgmental spouse, and I told them to get a dog, a four-legged animal, because dogs will give you unconditional love all the time. In other words, I mean, it's amazing. And if the person can take in that unconditional love, that's healing for the fourth chakra. That heals the energetic chakra of our hearts. I can tell you that as a therapist and as a heart specialist. That's amazing. So, Lillian, I have sat down in the office with so many people who have lost loved ones, and they didn't have vital connections with their children. Their children lived in different cities or different states or different countries, or they were getting older, they were losing friends. So the most important thing is when you lose a vital connection in life, whether it's a divorce, a loss of a loved one, death, anything. When you lose a vital connection, you need to establish a new connection. And a lot of my patients established a new connection through the unconditional love of a dog. And I had patients come in hugging me, kissing me, and saying, "Thank you, Dr. Sinatra," giving me that insight, because I was seeing them 6 months later, a year later, and pets can bring so much to the table. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I developed ageless pause because I learned so much from my own dogs for decades. For decades, I had dogs. I learned so much about coenzyme Q10 and the animal model and blah, blah, blah. But the emotionality that a pet can give you is just, you can't put it in words.
It's
priceless.
amazing. It's so, and you're talking about unconditional love. And sometimes we ourselves don't have that for ourselves, let alone for someone else.
Oh, we don't love ourselves. Absolutely. We keep ourselves on the hook. We have a little voice talking to us. You know, I'm not thin enough. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not attractive enough. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the most important thing we need to do as humans is to, if you have negativity here, shut it off.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's why I'm so passionate about the I Am the Solution workshop, because people get to see how they're sabotaging, themselves. It's the thoughts in the mind, the reoccurring negativity, and how to rewrite the program. I mean, I learned that with Bruce Lipton when he came into the classroom many, many years ago, and it completely changed me. And meeting Louise Hay and saying to a friend, her coach, her health coach, is a friend of mine. And I said to my friend Heather, I'm looking, I can't wait to hear your talk. And even that, Louise corrected me. It was like I was thrilled when I heard her say that. And I've always remembered it. Don't speak in negatives. Like, I can't wait. So what she said was, I look forward to it, my dear. Like, she was like rewriting my program. And so I said, excuse me? And she goes, you look forward to it, my dear. And so inside I could have gone, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Blah, blah, blah. No, I was just celebrating something that I learned, something as simple as the brain doesn't understand do or don't, or can't, or fact or fiction. It doesn't, it just understands the command. After that, wait. And so, people don't understand that. And once they start understanding that and rewriting the program, I wonder how many doctors would see a different kind of patient, or how many cardiologists would see a different kind of patient if they just became aware of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. You really need to be aware. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll never forget this, Lillian. We might have talked about this on a previous show because I do so much media, but when I was in medical school, my senior year of medical school, I never saw a woman in the coronary care unit at Albany Medical Center.
You never saw what?
A woman in the CCU, coronary care unit.
Okay, a woman.
So when I graduated medical school, I thought women didn't get heart disease. I thought I only saw males in the CCU.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduated medical school in 1972. I did a 5-year residency and fellowship. Then I became chief of cardiology at Manchester Hospital in the 1990s, early 90s. And around 1996, I saw more women in the coronary care unit at the hospital than men. And I reflected, I said, wait a minute, 25 years ago, I only saw men. What's happened in the last 25 years? Something's happened. Now I'm seeing women, more women than men, and younger women too with heart attacks. So, being a psychotherapist and a cardiologist, I looked at this and I said, one of the things that women have more intuition than men. I can tell you this, there's no doubt about it. Women, they rely more on their right brain than a man does. A man is mostly facts, mostly data, but women have softer feelings. Women are more creative. Women have that right brain side, and they're more nurturing and stuff like that. And they have their feelings more. They cry more. They're softer, so to speak. So what happened in the last 40 or 50 years? I mean, and I thought about this real hard. And again, because I was a heart specialist and a psychotherapist, I tried to weave in the mind, body, et cetera, et cetera. And what I realized after talking to lots of women who had heart attacks, I wrote the book, Heart Sense for Women. I interviewed a lot of women. And not only did I interview them, I did a lot of psychotherapy with them to try to get at their unconscious drives and stuff like that. But the bottom line is this, Lillian, when a woman becomes more like a man, let's say in the workplace,
mm-hmm.
where she shuts off her intuition, she shuts off her feelings, she doesn't cry, She's not feminine. She's not softer. She has to be tough like a male. Well, she develops a male-oriented illness like coronary artery disease, like heart disease. So what I realized, and I did through workshops, through a lot of personal psychotherapy, through a lot of writing, when a woman becomes more like a man and shuts off her intuitive, softer side, she develops coronary artery disease. And just like men who don't cry get heart disease, women who don't cry or have their feeling in a workplace get heart disease. Wow. And that is really, really important. I'll never forget it. I had one woman in her late 20s when I was a psychotherapist, and she was in one of my workshops, and she developed uterine cancer. She was only 28 years old. And I said, oh my God, again, being a therapist, I'm saying, whoa, I researched the literature, and that's a really rare finding in a young woman. And I did therapy with her, and I realized that she was working as a vice president in a bank, and she was the only woman working with 8 tiger males. These were rough males that she was working with.
Yeah.
And they kept on pushing her down, and she kept on trying to climb the ladder, so to speak. I got it. She developed uterine cancer. She did a self-castration. She had a hysterectomy.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, when you have cancer in the uterus. So emotionally, she became more like a man by having a hysterectomy. Now, when I pointed that out to her in therapy, the crying and the crying and the crying finally came out. So now she was healing her body. She was healing her heart, I mean, there's so many different aspects of emotionality. I'll never forget, I saw a woman with thyroid cancer. And very attractive woman, young woman, very young woman. And she developed thyroid cancer in her 40s, which is another, rare situation.
Yeah.
And in therapy, I realized that she was married to a very, very oppressive male that wouldn't give her voice.
Mm-hmm.
Energetically, what does that mean? He wouldn't allow her to have her voice. That's the thyroid chakra, right?
Yeah. Number 5.
She wouldn't, in other words, he suppressed her all the time. He didn't allow her to be an individual. She developed thyroid cancer. So these emotions are a big deal. They're a big deal. The problem with the conventional medical system is that we don't look at, most doctors, 97% of doctors don't look at emotionality as a factor in illness. They only look at the physical body. Now, the really smart, intuitive healers, they take it a step further. They look at not only emotions and physical factors, now they weave in spiritual factors as well. So, I'll never forget it. I saw another young woman. She was married to a board-certified oncologist. She was in her late 40s, early 50s. She develops breast cancer. And I asked her in the office, I said, why do you think breast cancer is on your plate right now? Yeah. And she said to me, there's something I have to learn. There's something that I need to change in my life. Well, she needed a divorce. That's what she needed.
And it has to, that's right. There we go. Number 4. There we go.
So basically, one thing about being a doctor, I can tell you this, and you can take this to the bank. Patients are your best teachers. Patients would bring me information, teach me information. And because I was both a therapist and a heart specialist, when I would sit down with these people, I would really learn the true causes of illness and disease.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
If we just allow it, every good doctor that has come into the classroom has said those things. If I just talk to my patient long enough, they will tell me what the problem is, what the root cause is. And it's just a matter of listening to it. So when you have someone who doesn't want to forgive, or, they've got this narrowed down to, if you have breast cancer on the right side, it has to do with men. On the left side, it's women, nurturance. And they've got it. I mean, they've got this down to the science. And even though most people would say, oh, that's just woo-woo science, there's a lot of evidence that maybe it's anecdotal to them, but there's a lot of evidence that you can repeat this over and over again. You can look at it and say, okay, well, this is where it's coming from. And once you nip that, you're able to kind of release it so that your body can start healing. So what do you say to people that do not want to forgive someone, or what would you say to someone that is holding on to anger and resentment? As far as a cardiologist, what would you say to them, first as a cardiologist and then as a psychotherapist?
Well, the most important thing is that whenever you've been wounded by another individual, and the wound is deep and the wound is severe, like betrayal, and people make mistakes all the time. Look, we all make mistakes. It's part of being human.
Correct.
But the most important thing is you don't want to just carry that resentment over and over again, because over time, it's going to eat at you. It's going to cause autonomic discharge of the sympathetic nervous system. Mm-hmm. It's going to wear you down emotionally and physically. So the best thing is you must give resentments up. And Lillian, that's so hard for people. That's so hard for people. And when I was doing therapy with people, sometimes I would have to have my client use a tennis racket and put that person that they're resenting in a chair with a big pillow next to it. And I would have them hit the pillow and say, I hate you. I don't like you. And to the point where their anger became into tears and sobbing and crying. Once I was able to transfer the anger into the deep sadness. Remember, anger is a cover-up for sadness.
That's
a lot of people don't know that.
It's right underneath there, yeah.
So in other words, the anger is a safer emotion for a lot of people, But once they touch their inner sadness, grief, despair, shame, once those emotions get touched, and if the person cries out that feeling, that's when the healing takes place. That's when the healing really resonates with people. And I've had so many of my patients cry very deeply. And I learned that from Alexander Lowen, by the way. I mean, that was one of my issues. I had an issue of not crying. And fortunately, I saw a movie with the Hoosiers movie, and it brought me back to my high school wrestling days. And a lot of people say,
you told that story last time. It was so wonderful.
A lot of people say, oh, the movie made me cry, Lillian. No, the movie just touches all our inner sadness. We all have sadness as human beings. Okay. Sometimes the movie touches it. And if the movie touches it, just go with it. Go with the flow. Always go with the flow. In other words, whatever the emotion is, just go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a quote that I absolutely love, and it was probably from the 1900s, just early 1900s. But he was either a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I can't remember. His name is Henry Maudsley. And he said, the sorrow which has no vent in tears may make other organs weep. Isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, it's almost like a Tennyson poem. It's very close to Tennyson, who said something very similar.
I'm sure a lot of
Keats and Tennyson, they had good poetry on the same mode.
So what did he say?
Well, basically, if you don't cry, you'll die.
There we go. Yeah, and some people, especially men. I mean, what are men told from the moment big boys don't cry. When you're a little girl, you cry like a little girl or whatever. So I can see how that can just swell up to that point. I know that many of you that are watching today are probably wanting to know, what pill to take, what supplement to take. And we may get to that to the end, but here is a cardiologist, board certified in cardiology. and psychotherapy, also nutrition. And here he is talking about the emotional aspect. How often do you hear that? You can go back to any of our classes that we've done, excuse me, and you will see him talk about, everything you need to take. Okay, I need to take a little break here. Go ahead, Doc.
Water is good.
It could be that I need to say something, just won't come out. See, the body tells us everything.
Oh, body always tells the truth.
Prior to going into the classroom today, I found out that someone I love very much may get the shot. And I'm, of course, doing all this research on it. And that was probably in my body right now. It just needs to come out because it's the emotions that need to come out. And the sooner we get in touch with our emotions, the quicker we can get to heal. Now, you know Dr. Lee Cowden, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Lee Cowden said in the classroom a while back, he said, it could cost a lot of money to fix the body. But if you start with the mind and the spirit, it's very cheap to fix the body. It's like, get your head and spirit all taken care of, and then your body will heal. Because a lot of it is, and Dr. Day says, 99% of all disease, and also Bruce Lipton said this, begins in the heart. It begins in the heart. And so that's why I wanted to have this conversation about the emotional component of heart disease, because we want to dismiss it as something that's not important. So what do you say to someone that says, oh, that's woo-woo stuff. I am not gonna, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem, but yet they have, they're a French fry away from a heart attack.
Yeah. Did we ever talk on a previous show about a workshop I did at Manchester Hospital, a 2-day workshop where they had close to 50 people in it? And we
tell us about it. Even if you have, tell us about it.
Yeah. When I was deep into psychotherapy, I was probably in my mid 40s at the time. I was working with a Gestalt psychotherapist. She was very good, one of the best. And we had a workshop at the hospital. I brought in, actually it was 44 people, the number, both men and women, maybe about 30 men and about 30 women and about 14 men. And we decided to collect urines during the 2-day workshop. It was a 2-day workshop on emotionality, physical ailments. There was a lot of emotions that came up in the workshop, a lot of tears, a lot of anger, a lot of, oh my gosh, it was like, it was incredible. And about 16 of my participants agreed to collect their urine. In other words, we collected 24-hour urines because as a heart specialist, I know that basically the physiology comes out in the urine, so to speak.
Yeah.
In other words, whenever we have a discharge of cortisol or from the adrenal gland or adrenaline or noradrenaline, we can measure these biochemicals in the urine. Mm-hmm. They come out in the urine. We can just measure them. It's easy to measure.
Yeah.
Doing blood work would have been tough. We had to, then it's needles and everything else. So this was an amazing situation, Lillian. When I finished the workshop and we broke the codes on all the people in the world who collected the urines, this was amazing. The women who networked with one another, they hugged one another, they cried with one another, they got angry with one another, they helped one another, they nurtured one another, they told the truth, they just let down. When we broke the codes, no hypertension,
wow,
no cardiac arrhythmias, no heart disease, zero on a physical basis, clean as a whistle, all these women.
Wow.
I had 5 men who collected the urines. All 5 had heart disease, okay? 4 out of 5 had serious heart disease. I mean, serious heart disease, bypass surgery, heart attacks, positive angiograms, etc. When we broke the code, 4 out of the 5 had astronomical levels of the cortisol and adrenaline, and 1 of the 5 was borderline abnormal. So all 5 were abnormal.
Wow.
So they all had abnormal hormones. They all had heart disease. Now, what was in common? You know what was in common? They were like lumps of clay. They didn't get angry. They didn't have tears. They didn't get sad. They kept their arms around themselves. They were like, this doesn't bother me. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I would say to them, you don't look fine. No, doc, I'm fine. I can handle this, blah, blah, blah. Amazing. The men wouldn't share. They wouldn't share themselves. The other men who shared themselves, I don't know. We didn't collect urines. But the men who were like lumps of clay, they had heart disease. So then I got the message. I said, oh my God, men who don't cry get heart disease. And I wrote that in Connecticut medicine. I wrote that in the medical literature. Simple.
Just simple, right?
Simple, yeah.
So they just have to watch the Hoosiers movie like you did.
Yes, Hoosiers, that's right. I saw it 5 times.
It's the only time you cry.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter why you're crying. Is it just the release of tears?
It's a release of sadness. It's a release of sadness we all have. See, people don't realize it, but we have suppressed memories from childhood. If our parents spanked us, or if they yelled at us, or if we got scornful looks in their eyes and we're very, very young children, we take that energy in. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need to get that energy out. And one of the best ways of getting that energy out is by crying and sobbing. And remember this, we release endorphins in our tears. So we release feel-good hormones as well. So, and there's also data to show that, whenever you sob or cry, you're affecting biochemicals in the lung as well. We call it thromboxane A2. So, you're thinning the blood at the same time you're crying. And we know today that in this day and age, thick blood is real, or red ketchup blood is really the essence of all the strokes and heart attacks, or most of the strokes and heart attacks we see are due to, just hypercoagulability of the bloodstream in our body.
It's interesting that you said that you mentioned that people that it wasn't about the nutrition. Like some people think, okay, I have great nutrition, I'm healthy or whatever, but then they're withholding. And you had said earlier in the broadcast that, there are people that you couldn't fix, that you couldn't help. And once you started looking at that emotional, and they started, and they were able to cry, and they were able to, that's when you were able to help them. So it's amazing that in our tears, there are even signs of therapy, that you're saying it releases endorphins. It does, I hope that you guys are taking this in because we dismiss our emotions. We trap them. What about, because I also learned about trapped emotion from our past generations. Do you work with that at all?
Well, you're bringing up the miasms right now. In other words, I've done enough work in psychotherapy on past life experiences myself, especially the Europeans were very big on this. I would go to workshops in Europe, and they were really high on miasms. In fact, one of the most intuitive psychotherapists I've ever met was a bioenergetic psychotherapist who was also an embryologist. Think about that combination.
Wow.
He was
I'd like to hear that story and how that happened.
Well, that was an incredible story. Yeah. And basically from him, I learned about the whole embryology of the heart. And, in other words, the heart's formed at the 8th week of gestation, Okay. And now look, the heart is formed from the endoderm, the mesoderm, and the ectoderm. And we got to realize that extension of the heart, right, is from the lung, the lung buds. And these lung buds grow out, and then we eventually form our arms from the lung buds. And what happens when people get a heart attack, Vivian, where do they feel the pain? About 90% of them.
Their arm. Yeah.
So this embryologist was amazing. Here I am as a board certified cardiologist. And this guy's also a bioenergetic psychotherapist, right? He's on a really good level. And I really got why we develop arm pain when we get a heart attack, because it comes from the endoderm of the myocardium in the 8th week of gestation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Is it when Dr. Sinatra says it's by accident that he learned this, I tell you that that may be a fabrication of what I see in him. What I see in Dr. Sinatra is that his yes is very profound. And you said yes to all these accidents for, because you could have been resistant of it. You could have just like said, oh, this is an easy A, I'm not going to learn anything. But your yes to learn whatever was coming your way allowed you to become the man who you are today. So I just want to, it's not a coincidence. It's not an accident. Just like that embryologist that's also, that does all these other wonderful things. Look at the connection. And once we make that connection for spirit, mind, and body, but also I'm talking about not tomorrow, but on Thursday, we're going to have Bradley Nelson. He is the co-author, and I say co-author because I believe it could only come from God, of the emotion code, and how he, so sometimes we carry baggage from our parents and, emotional stuff that gets passed down to us because they didn't deal with it. Yeah. And some belief is that if you heal some of the past, the past traumas from, yes. Can you share a little bit about that, Dr. Sinatra?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of a really high level situation in past life regressions. It's hard to explain, but let me explain it this way. When I was in that workshop in England, and David Bordella, that was a psychotherapist and embryologist who was working the workshop. I'll never forget it. He did a piece of work with a woman who, for some reason, during this piece of work, she felt that she was stabbed in the kidney in the 16th century. Now, this, I got to tell you, and the piece of work he did with this woman was really amazing. I mean, in other words, the body tells the truth, but yet the memory was like 400 years old. I mean, this is far out stuff. This is really far out stuff. But like what I saw unfold right in front of me, I mean, to me, it was a truth. I mean, I don't think anybody could make this stuff up. Yeah. I don't think it could be made up. The emotion was there. The tears were there. Everything was there to make it real. But like, I think there are miasms. I mean, we sort of inherit the tuberculosis miasm. For example, like I'm part of Irish descent, and when my grandmother came over in the 1880s, her mother lived in the 1850s when they had the potato famine in Ireland, and there was a lot of tuberculosis, et cetera, et cetera. And that miasm, that memory can be transported towards, further generations, Yeah. So in other words, there is some science behind this, but there's a lot of mystery. And again, when I met Tommy Rosa and he went to heaven and earth, I mean, anything is possible. I can believe it. Anything.
And that's openness. That's that openness that I see in you to that. Yes, let me learn more. You're curious instead of critical. And many of us can dismiss this as saying, I want to hear about the CoQ10. That's what I come here for doing. But, taking a pill is one thing, but actually taking ownership and saying, okay, I want to be a self-cleaning oven, which is what I always say, that people who go through my program become self-cleaning ovens.
N-U-N?
The what?
Self-sitting nun?
No, self-cleaning ovens.
Oh, oven. Oh, self-serving nun. I said, well, that's interesting.
Self-cleaning nuns. Yes, that's going to be my next one. I'm going to work that in somewhere. But anyway, when we start looking at it, really give our bodies permission to recall a past memory or a past hurt. Why am I, instead of saying, I'm so angry with you, ask the question, why am I so sad about? What am I really sad about? What makes me sad? Are you going to add something to that, Dr. Sinatra?
Yeah. I mean, that's an important intuitive comment you just made. And what I would tell you is, lots of people don't know, okay? But people who dream, remember, the truth comes out in your dreams. It's not so much the dream itself, the content, it's the emotion in the dream. It's the emotion. So if you're having a dream and you're very, very happy, and it's sort of funny stuff and say, although this can't happen, but you're really happy. Guess what? You're a very happy person because dreams tell the truth. And I've done a lot of dream work, with really world-renowned psychotherapists. So if your dreams have a lot of fear, a lot of running, a lot of panic, a lot of anxiety, well, that means that's in your body. But a lot of people can use their dreams as a way of unlocking the unconscious.
Nice.
And if you look at your dreams, or if you write them down, and if you can talk to, let's say, a rabbi, a minister, a priest, your husband, your wife, anybody that you trust, sometimes these people can give you insight into what the dream means. And so I've used dreams in a lot of my patients as a way of healing. So that looks at the unconscious. And again, Lillian, it's the unconscious drives that drive us more than the conscious drives. It's what unconsciously drives us is more important.
Yeah. And I've coached a lot of people, and always, if I ask them a question and they don't want to answer it, they'll say, I don't know, or maybe they really don't know. But the question I ask, a follow-up question that I always ask is, but what if you did know? What do you think it would be? And do you know they always answer?
Yeah.
What if you did know? What would it be? So I want to encourage all of you that if you guys are right now having a heart issue or are having a dis-ease or a crisis, a health crisis, be grateful for it, because that's your body speaking to you. So what is it trying to tell you? What is it trying to tell you? And so ask yourself, what if I knew? Because if you're saying your body's not telling you, just say, but what if I did know? What would it be? And write it down, journal it down, get it out of your body, right, Dr. Sinatra? I see you nodding your head.
Well, the body always tells the truth. You got to realize from here up.
I love that.
Yeah, body tells the truth.
Always tells the truth. Even if you're a pathological liar, your body will tell the truth.
Tells the truth.
I love that. I love that story about the pathological liar. That's how the reason why you couldn't get him well is because his body, he just didn't recognize truth. Sometimes people just don't recognize truth. And I remember when my son was little, and I would have them pull weeds every time they tell a lie, because I wanted them to do something like every time they pull a weed, because a weed can can ruin a flower bed. So I wanted them to see that these lies were like weeds. And I remember one time my son would say, I just don't know how to tell the truth. And he was little. He just didn't want to get in trouble. And he goes, I don't know how to tell the truth. And I just said, say what really happened. Just, he just didn't know how to do it in his mind, but he did. All you have to do is say what really happened. And stop trying to fear getting in trouble or whatever, because they would always get in trouble twice, once for what they did and once for telling the lie. But if they told the truth, they only got trouble once. So I wanted them to understand the value of truth, because you don't have to make it up. You don't have to remember truth, because truth is always remembered. It's the lie that you have to remember. And so I just want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check out the website for those of you who are watching today, and just know that Dr. Sinatra has been in the classroom before, and you can find all our past classes with Dr. Sinatra. Go to whenyouneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like, follow, share it with your friends. Let's help us grow the classroom, especially BitChute, because we're being censored a lot. With some of the research that I've done in the since 2015, some of these now classes are being censored a lot. So I want to encourage you to if something happens where we're no longer available here, at least you know where to go to at whenyouneedafriend.com. Also, BitChute is another account that I'm trying to bring up to the numbers that we have here on Facebook and YouTube, which I am very grateful for. But while you're there, check out my sponsors like Keep Me Safe Organics, First Alternative Care, the Pharmacy in Merritt Island, Right Way Health and Wellness, and with Dr. Jennifer Gramuth. We have ground therapy. Go to my Shop Now bag, and you can just click on my ground therapy, brain tap, as well as my B3 bands that are giving me some muscles that I didn't have before, half the weight with half the time. And so check out how you can change your life and by doing things that are a little bit healthier than maybe what you're doing today, and support the sponsors the way they're supporting the classroom. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student, because it's becoming more costly with some of the changes that have been. So whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, please figure out how you can help, whether it's your time, your talent, or your treasure. Now, today we have Dr. Stephen Sinatra, and you can find him at drsinatra.com. You can also find him in heartmdinstitute.com, healthydirections.com. Dr. Sinatra has lots of different foods, and next time he comes, we're gonna talk about Nirvana, right now? No, Nirvana. Nirvana.
No, VER.
Vervana. Yeah, I didn't have it in front of me, but I know I have it written down. I just had turned the page. But yes, Vervana, and you can find out. Now, I have a question for you though. Now, this is a physiological, I guess. We've talked about the emotional component, how it affects the heart, and I get that. But there are also other things, like food is medicine, and we know that. And I have Dr. Joe Furman in the classroom that says no oils or very little oils, but you have that you love oils, and you say it's okay to drink oils. Why would a cardiologist say that it's okay to drink oil, and have Dr. Furman, who is also a doctor that specializes in health? There's so many, like, someone says yes, someone says no, and so many different things. But how can you help me understand how oil is good for the heart?
Sure. First of all, Lillian, when you interview 5 different doctors,
yes,
5 different opinions.
That's right.
I mean, when I had patients come to my office, lots of them came because they didn't like the opinion of their first physician, and they came to get another opinion. Mm-hmm. So remember, it's just the nature of life. I mean, it's like doing medical research. I mean, there's research for something, like take omega-3 essential fatty acids. There's lots of research that praise it, and there's research that throws it into the gutter. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a fact of life. All right, so let's get to the question of olive oil.
Yes.
Oils. I mean, if you look at the world population, where are the oldest living centenarians in the world right now? In other words, what countries have the oldest living 100-year-old plus people?
Yeah.
Okinawa had the monopoly on that for about 30 years. Now Spain and Portugal and Italy have surpassed Okinawa. And there's something special about the Mediterranean basin. In other words, there are more 100-year-old people in the entire world that live in the Mediterranean basin. Doesn't make a difference if you live on the island of Crete, or in Turkey, or in Greece, or in Italy, or Libya. You're in the Mediterranean basin. So the common denominator in the Mediterranean basin is extra virgin olive oil. Whether it's made in Morocco with loads of polyphenols, or it's made in Italy or Greece, they have hydroxytyrosol in there, polyphenols, oleopurin. They have all these incredible, life-saving factors, anti-inflammatory factors. And we know that inflammation is the root cause of heart disease. Now, I looked at olive oil for the last decade. I mean, this is something that's very close to me because I had Dr. Gonzalez at the American College of Nutrition speak on the Predimed study, where, the participants, 8,000 participants, and half of them were on olive oil, 4 tablespoons a day, they would drink it. And after 5 years, almost 5 years, there was less Alzheimer's disease, less cancer, less heart disease, less diabetes, less everything. It was amazing. The data has been recapitulated. Sure, some journals came out with negative effects, but, it's all been disbarred, so to speak. I mean, it's a very positive study. So there's something special about the Mediterranean diet. Mm-hmm. And the kingpin of the Mediterranean diet is olive oil. And there was an article that I read back in 2010. I'll never forget it. It was in the Biogenomics Journal. Mm-hmm. And what it said, now you have to realize this was 2010. And in 1996, the Biogenome Project was discovered that was looking at all our genes. So the doctors of the future right now are going to be genetic doctors. I can tell you right now, 10 years from now, forget about differential diagnosis when you see a doctor. It's all going to be, oh, we're going to take a buccal smear, we're going to take a blood work, we're going to figure out where your genes are strong, where are they weak, and we're going to shore up the weaknesses, and you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? That's why people are going to live into the hundreds in the next 10 or 20 years, because we're going to figure out the genetic weaknesses. But in this 2010 paper, what these researchers found was that we all have pro-inflammatory genes. We're all born with pro-inflammatory genes. What olive oil does, it takes our pro-inflammatory genes, turns them around to a non-inflammatory state. Think about that. So that's one of the reasons why we have all these 100-year-old plus people in the Mediterranean basin. Sure, they eat artichokes and fresh fruits and vegetables and avocados and get omega-3s from Mediterranean fish, and they eat a lot of nuts. Sure, they eat good. They all take in olive oil.
So is all olive oil created equal? Because I know your olive oil is really good. So is there a particular olive oil that you must have other than Vervana's?
Well, in the last 5 years, what's happened is a lot of canola oil has infiltrated the traditional extra virgin 100% olive oil in the European nations. Now,
canola is like so GMO. There's no organic or non-GMO canola.
It's an inflammatory oil.
Yeah.
Bad oil. But the labels in Western Europe, if they show 75% extra virgin olive oil, they can classify it as a 100% extra virgin olive oil. That's the problem. However, the California Growers Council, and that's where my olive oils are assessed with. In other words, in order to get the California Growers Council seal of approval, you have to go through a taste test and a chemical analysis of your olive oil. So on our olive oils, for example, you'll see the seal of approval of the California Growers Association. And by the way, I was shocked. I ran out of olive oil here in Florida, so I had to purchase olive oil. And I purchased an olive oil, a very famous type of olive oil that's grown in California. I didn't notice that it had the California seal of approval. I said, gee, that's odd. It's an extra virgin olive oil, but it doesn't have the California seal of approval. And I was using this olive oil and I said, you know what, something's wrong. And there's a very, very famous olive oil. I don't want to disclose the name.
Yeah.
I said, something's wrong. And then when I got my olive oil back, when it was mailed to me, oh my God, Lillian, it was night and day. And I said, uh-oh, this olive oil was probably cut with safflower oil or canola oil. I said,
oh boy.
And again, it's just, there's so much chicanery going on in the food industry in this country. It bothers me. It really does bother me.
So it needs to have the seal. It's the California, what is it called? California seal?
Yeah, it's a California seal of approval. It's from the California's Growers Association. You'll see it on my Vervana olive oil. There's a seal of approval, And is
it cold pressed? Do you look for cold pressed?
You want cold pressed, 100% extra virgin, non-GMOs, organic, you want organic olive oil.
Yeah, when I do have oil and it's not heated, do you heat the oil?
No.
You don't heat the oil?
No. I only heat it to maybe low temperatures of a heat point of 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. You can go a little higher, but you don't want to boil olive oil. You don't want to go to 212 because then the monounsaturated fats turn into more saturated fats.
Okay.
It's the monounsaturated fats that give you the medicinal value. But getting back to your previous people.
Well, let me, because we've got 2 minutes left in the podcast. And then once we're done with the podcast, we have the Teacher's Pet Corner, and all your questions that you have, go ahead and ask it, because Dr. Sinatra said he would answer your question. But can you hold, what is it that you're going to, so I can mark it down so we can talk about it in the Teacher's Pet Corner. What were you going to say?
Well, I was talking, in other words, when your previous author, says not to take in olive oil, I mean, what these people really need to do is to look at the other side. The problem with a lot of doctors, vegans, vegetarians, we become, what's the word I want? We become rigid in our thinking.
Yeah.
Rigid is the Achilles heel of the health professional. I can tell you that without a doubt.
Yeah.
So many of us become rigid in our thinking that it destroys, our knowledge base. And That's our Achilles heel.
Yeah, one size does not fit all. When somebody falls onto one little, there's so much. We're so uniquely created. So if somebody would walk in right now and say, "What is this class about, Dr. Sinatra?" In 1 minute, what would you say?
What is our class about right now?
Yeah, today, right now, about the emotional component. What would you tell somebody just walking in right now?
Tell the truth. Always tell the truth, even if it hurts. Be true to your feelings. If you have your anger, have it out. If you have sadness, have it out. If you're feeling ashamed, just communicate it. If you feel betrayed by another human being, tell them that you feel betrayed and you want to get it off your chest. You don't want to have any resentment. So, that's what I would tell them. And I would tell them also to use olive oil.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I have your Vervana olive oil, and I will have, when I have olive oil, that's what I have, because I know that that's the one that you suggest. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all of that after the class. So for those of you who are listeners of the podcast, please know that we always have extra information for you. So please join us live or recorded afterward. And Dr. Sinatra, if you want to find him, you can find him at drsinatra.com and all those other ones that I had mentioned before. Dr. Sinatra, I absolutely adore you. I think you're just the kindest man. And great time manager too, because you were on here. So now we're going to continue our conversation, but please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Stephen Sinatra wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
On the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
I'm glad we talked about, I'm going to ask for you to unmute, Dr. Sinatra. I'm glad we talked about that during the podcast, because, I know that a lot of people become very rigid in their thinking. And so I think that we need to figure out what works for us. What, like one person may agree and it's not about an opinion at this point. It's what it works. Your body will tell you this works, this doesn't work. If I have anything like a fried potato chip or whatever, like my body doesn't like that. But if I have some of your olive oil with some of the seasons that you have that are just absolutely phenomenal, and I dip it on some gluten-free bread or some, organic, some bread that supports me, which I hardly ever have bread, but if I do, I like to dip
avocado. It's great.
And avocado, put your seasoning mix in avocado.
Oh yeah, the seasoning mixture with olive oil, you mash it up into an avocado. It makes a great dip. It's unbelievable.
Oh, really? I'll have to try that. What other tips do you have for us?
Well, I don't know, avocado, I think, is one of the healthiest foods you can take because it supports glutathione. And we need a lot of glutathione peroxidase because that's our major immune-enhancing antioxidant, protecting the cardiovascular system.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I believe there was a question here earlier, and I saw it come on, and then it went away. It even had the Q and everything. I saw it come on. It had to do with CoQ10, and then it went away. So I don't know if they took it away or what, but I saw it come in. And then, so if you were the one that posted that, please repost it because it went away. I didn't get to see it. But if any of you have a question for Dr. Sinatra, please type in a Q. There's one here that's, it's from Denise. Let me see if I can, because it's so little. It's hard for me to see this. She said, Denise said, Dr. Sinatra, he is always one of my favorite ACIM speakers. His book, Reversing Heart Disease, helped me add many years to my father's life. His cardiologist only gave him a few months to live after MIA number 4. You are one of the reasons I've made a midlife career change and became an ND, thankful in Johnson City, Tennessee. Just wanted to let you know that.
ND. My son's an ND. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Wonderful. And I know ACIM, I'm glad that you go to ACIM and know ACIM. I absolutely support Dr. Lee Cowden, and I know he's retired now, but I think he's doing a few things as well. So
Lee's never going to retire.
Yeah, nobody ever retires. I think that's the key. to living a long life is having something that you can feel like you belong. You
Lillian,
belong.
one of the things that I learned as a heart specialist, remember when it was common for men to retire at 65 years ago?
Yes.
Well, what I learned from my 65-year-old men is, and I treated a lot. I treated judges, attorneys, oh my God, legislators. I mean, you name it. I mean, insurance people, high up, because I was in the town of Hartford, Connecticut, in that area. I'll never forget it. When men retired, if they didn't have any hobbies or if they didn't have anything to do, they would die. I mean, it was unbelievable. Yeah. I said it before. If your job is your vital connection, and if you can't establish a new connection, whether it's suppose a male retired and he said to me, "Hey, Doc Sinatra, I love to play chess. I get chess is my passion in my life. I'm going to retire. I'm going to read all these chess books. I'm going to enter tournaments. But this is what I'm going to do when I retire." That guy's going to live a long life. Yep. Because he substituted another passion for his workplace, so to speak. But if men don't have another passion, oh my gosh, it's devastating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
that feeling of your why and knowing that you're still viable, regardless of your job being over. Do you feel that many people identify too much with what they do and not as much as who they are?
Oh, absolutely.
What they love?
If you become your job, then your spouse, then you're living in a false self. You're not living in your true self. That's a false narrative. And again, this sets up the autonomic nervous system, the lie situation. You've got to live in your true self. Well, unfortunately, a lot of us live in a false self, and that forces autonomic, a disconnect in the body, so to speak. Yes.
So let me ask you something. John Gray, when John Gray was in the classroom, I heard him say this too, which is that women have become too masculine and men have become too feminine. And as a result, the women are getting men diseases and men are getting women diseases, is basically what he had mentioned in a nutshell. He went into a little bit longer, but in a nutshell, he had said something that when I heard that, I thought, man, that could be taken as chauvinistic or, but, I've heard it over and over and over again that we have lost who we are. And we're trying to become someone else. So if someone is really focused on their job and their job is mainly a man's role or a man is in a woman's role, like let's say, for example, a man decides that he's going to be a stay-at-home dad, or a woman decides that she's going to be a judge and she wants to, go up the rank in their firm. What advice would you give someone like that to reconnect with their true self, female and male side?
As long as they tell the truth about themselves, and as long as they're exercising the passion that particular type of employment entails, and if they get into it 100%, then I'm in favor of it. The problem is that when we live in image, let's just use a male or a woman who's rising up the corporate ladder, and they're not living in their true selves, but they're living in an image of what they should be, but not who they really are. When people live in image, they invite illness into their lives. Because again, it's a disconnect with the autonomic nervous system. It's important.
I like that. I like what you're saying, because so many people have this image, especially, we have the Sports Illustrated. I remember a long time ago, they would say anyone who would look at the Sports Illustrated bathing suit edition would become depressed. Victoria's Secret, depressed. All these magazines were made, and women were looking at trying to compare and compete with these women that were touched up and all of that. And a lot of issues of self-esteem, self-value, And they were trying to be that image, became their goal. I remember many people got married because they wanted to be, have that life where you're like a couple and then you have 2 kids and a dog, but it just doesn't work because they picked the wrong person and they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. And so with that in mind, that evaluation would do them some good, that changing and that shifting. So if someone is stuck in that, and they don't even know that they're stuck in that, but maybe hearing this today going, wow, this sounds like maybe I'm not living my true life. What would you tell them to take that step back? Or how can you get them to kind of be open, to be curious as to the life they truly want to live?
Well, I mean, it's, whenever a person lives in their true self and honors their feelings, and what men and women need to do is they should say, oh, I shouldn't be this or I shouldn't be that. But if you're feeling the emotion, feel the emotion. Emotions are important, especially in this day and age. I mean, look what COVID-19 has done. There's more suicides, there's more murders, there's more wife beatings. It's awful because people are contained in an environment and it flares up anger and people do stupid things under rage. By the way, anger is okay. A little anger is fine, but when you have rage, that's unchecked anger. And in rage, anything can happen. I mean, even some of the things we see in the media where people are shooting other people, and rage is bad because in rage you do things, uncontrollably. So, whatever is going on with the zeitgeist of the times, with the pandemic and everything else, I would just tell people to, get outdoors as much as you can, ground as much as you can, because whenever you ground, you're going to attenuate that sympathetic overdrive. Because we're living in a hypersympathetic state. Tell the truth as much as you can. Just be open. Forgive. Oh, that's a big one. We talked about that one as well. Because this pandemic is creating a lot of stress, and I really feel bad for the children for so many reasons. Wearing a mask, for example. I mean, what does that do to a 2 or 3 year old?
It's horrible.
What does that do when a 2 or 3 year old sees people in a mask? That 2 year old may grow up that, something is not right. In other words, they're going to grow up with the energy of suspicion. It's not a good energy to have. Maybe I could say it this way. Children will follow what a parent does, that's so important. In other words, the energy of a parent, the energy of a father or a mother, the child is going to track that energy. They will follow what you do, not what you say, so to speak. So if a parent smokes, for example, most likely the child is going to smoke. If the parent's a big drinker, alcohol in the house all the time, blah, 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 the child may grow up with that energy and track that energy. So, it's important that we parents need to be good role models for our children. And again, speak the truth as much as possible, and just be a good role model, because children will follow our behaviors for sure. Not what we tell them, but follow our behavior.
Yes.
That's modeling.
That is. Now, there's a question here, and I think we just need a little bit clarification. When we're talking about past life, when I'm talking about past life, I'm talking about our ancestry, unresolved issues being passed and transferred into the DNA. There are some people that believe that in reincarnation. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about the energy that keeps being passed from generation to the generation, because there was no resolve. There was no resolve. They were unwilling to forgive. They were unwilling to be, to do whatever it took to kind of get it out of their body. And there are studies that show that those are the things that get trapped in the baby's body too. And that baby becomes an adult, and that adult, gets, whether it's a boy or a girl, gets that. That's what I was talking about, Dr. Sinatra. And I'm sure that that's kind of like what you were talking about as well. Although there are people that believe in past life regressions, that means that this is a life in reincarnation that you've reincarnated, or the spirit of that person has gone into that. Can you explain a little bit more for this viewer that was watching that?
Well, I mean, I can only talk from my experience. I mean, that's what I can talk from. I've done, loads of workshops where I was a participant and learning, and our own beliefs can be our Achilles heel. In other words, what we want to be as human beings is we want to be a little bit open, okay? And whatever your belief is, that's okay. It's your belief system. I don't want to, throw water over that.
I've heard some incredible stories about past life regression, and I just sit with curiosity because I don't know everything. I don't know what I don't know. So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and basically, I would tell the viewer that basically the Achilles heel in all of us is our very rigid belief systems. And if you can just expand your own belief system to the point where other things are possible. For example, a lot of people believe, for example, that there's no aliens out there, and other people believe there are aliens, and that conversation can go on, indefinitely. You know what I mean? So in other words, I know one thing for sure. After being a doctor for almost 50 years, anything is possible.
And you know what? That's where I live my life. I mean, with God, all things are possible.
Yeah, God
and if we believe that with God, all things are possible, I can't put my limitations on that. I can't put my limitations on that. So we have another question, and it's from Practical Daily Living. I'm sorry. It says, did you say that your olive oil contains California grown olives? I don't think you said that. You got a certification, right?
Yeah, but it is California grown olives, though.
Okay.
So in other words, those olives come from California, from organic fields, and they have certifications. The California Growers Council certifies it. Yeah.
What about glyphosates in California? And is it organic? I mean, how to?
Oh, yeah, they're organic vineyards. Yeah, we use organic varietals.
Okay, very good. I'm glad I clarified that, because California is getting a bum. I don't touch anything from California, but for some reason I thought your olives were from Italy, but now it's
no,
also
my sauce is from Italy. My marinara sauce comes from Italy. It comes from Sicily. I was supposed to go during COVID to the factories because these are San Marzano, all organic tomatoes. And all the constituents are organic. And I developed an arrabbiata sauce, which is a hot pepper sauce. The reason why I wanted
I want to try that. I love that.
Capsaicin is really good for the heart. Capsaicin is a very potent anti-inflammatory for the heart. So that's why I wanted to use it. And my marinara sauce, I just love my marinara sauce because, again, whenever you weave in organic onions, organic garlic, these are really good, flavonoids that really help, heal the human body. So I love my sauce. And Lillian, when my sauce gets in, oh, by the way, it's in the USA now.
Yay.
The boat just came in, so we should be getting it next week in the office, and I'll send you a care package.
I know. We're going to get some stuff from you, and then we're going to do another class on Vervana. I'm really excited. Okay.
Are you a vegan or a vegetarian yourself?
I am. I eat whole food. Yes, I am a vegan, but I'm not a strict vegan. I am a nutritarian in a sense because I know that our body requires certain things, and so when my body requires something, I'm not going to set myself up for failure. I've done shows with Dr. Furman talking about the pitfalls of being a vegan too. So I don't call myself a vegan anymore. I call myself, someone who listens to our body. Yeah. But I primarily eat whole food, plant-based.
Yeah. One of the greatest things about being a doctor, and I mentioned this before, is your patients are your messengers, right? They really empower you with information. In my career as a heart specialist, I saw this only two times in like the last 50 years, almost 50 years. I saw two vegan women from Asia in their 40s, both with breast cancer and both with cardiomyopathy.
Wow.
When you see two life-threatening illnesses in one person, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Something's got to give. when I saw them in the office, very, very rare to have breast cancer and heart disease at the same time. When I tested they're both vegans. When I tested their CoQ10 levels, both of them blood levels, they were in the basement. When I researched the literature, very low blood levels have been associated with breast cancer. Low blood levels have been very, very associated with cardiomyopathy. So again, where do you get coenzyme Q10? Well, you get it in the animal kingdom. You do not get it in the vegetarian or the vegan kingdom.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to eat a ton of vegetarian food to get a little smidgen of CoQ10.
Yeah.
The same thing is true for carnitine. So basically, vegetarian. And by the way, I used to be a vegetarian for years until well, I used to eat a lot of fish as well, and then it became mercury toxic from eating so many swordfish before it became known that.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I used to love tuna until I've learned that too.
Horrible mercury as well,
I used to. Okay, so we have another question. It says from Denise. I tuned in late. What was the sheet of paper you held up in the reference when speaking of emotional significance? Of thyroid. Okay, so I discussed this in my workshop quite a bit, and this was a 10-day course I took up in Maine. But the thyroid, the reason for the thyroid or jaw, mouth, and dental disorders, this is, as a life coach, when someone comes in presenting, I'm not a doctor or anything like that, but I am a coach. I'm not a therapist, I'm a coach. And so when I see somebody present themselves and they also have these issues, I know to go to the root cause, because we want to get to the root of the issue. May not be what they're telling me. It may be something totally different. So it has to do with communication. It has to do with will and timing. And so those, I look at that. And so I'm able to kind of like work with someone. And listen, I could go down every single chakra or healing center on this page and see something from my childhood, see something from my past, see something from, so every single one of us just need to go through our body and say, okay, what's causing this to cause, but this is from a medical intuition course that I took with Dr. Mona Lisa Schulz, and it's called Chakra Energy Center Chart, Connecting the Health Problem with the Emotional Situation.
Nice, very nice.
Yeah, it's a wonderful. So on one side, it has the health, problem, and the other side it says the emotional issues. And I'm sure, Dr. Sinatra, you do this intuitively with all the people that you've seen in your lifetime, huh?
Well, I mean, there's so many meridians in the body that connect with chakras. I mean, even in myself, I have all my teeth. Well, I did, but I had my wisdom teeth, and I never had a tooth pulled until I was about, I think 69 or 70.
Wow. Did you ever have a cavity?
Oh yeah, I had cavities. Yeah, but I'm talking about pulling teeth. I had all 32 teeth.
Wow.
But then I was a heart specialist. I started to develop skipped heartbeats, skipped premature ventricular contractions.
Uh-huh.
And I saw a dentist who does electrodermal testing. And one of my wisdom teeth, the root, I guess, was tired. And he told me to get it pulled. And the reason why is because the wisdom tooth sits on a meridian of the heart. In other words, the tooth was off. So the day I had it pulled is the day my skipped heartbeat stopped.
Wow.
And that's meridian medicine. That's meridian medicine. And that's what you're talking about when you have the energy chambers of the jaw, the thyroid, the third eye.
Yes. It's, it's like someone, when it comes to will and timing and communication, you're not speaking your truth. You're not, and trust me, I've been diagnosed with a thyroid condition like 20 years ago. And now they're telling me I can't get off my medication because it's been too long. But that's one of my dreams, is to get off all my medications. But I did not know how to speak my truth. I was too shy and my voice didn't matter. I had all these preconceived notions of who I am and who I'm not, and they were not real. And so will and timing, if something didn't work out the way it needed to be, I wasn't so much angry. I would try to figure out how to make it work. Some other people get really angry at timing and, it's got to be my control. So those are some of the things that the thyroid and communication, timing, and will. And so
the ladder into your third eye, right?
Into the third eye is the brain, ear, and eye disorders. And it's about perception.
Yep.
When somebody doesn't want to look at something the way it is, so it's perception, thought, and morality.
Did you look at ways to unblock the energy of the third eye? Because a lot of people have their blocked energy of the third eye.
Can you help us with that, Doctor?
Well, not really, because I think that's something that I know Barbara Brennan did a lot of work with third eye work, for example. But I don't even know if she's still alive right now, but she would be a great one to have on your show. But, opening up the third eye is a step in the right direction for all of us.
Absolutely. And that's, I think the bottom line, what opens our third eye, although they say fluoride causes it to get, damaged, and there's so many, I read one time that turmeric was good for that. And I mean, there's so many people have so many opinions on that. I would like to speak to an expert actually, and how to open, but once you open your mind to other possibilities, like you said, to that there's just anything is possible. I think that's the start of opening that third eye.
Yeah. Have you ever read the work by Richard Gerber? He wrote the book Vibrational Medicine. Dr. Richard Gerber, Gerber.
I think we've reached out to him.
No, he's deceased. He died at age 53. He wrote Vibrational Medicine. It came out in the 1980s. It's one of the most profound books I've ever read. And his description of the chakras, this is like, almost 40 years ago. It's the best information I've ever read.
Really? So it's called vibrational medicine?
Yeah, it's called Vibrational Medicine.
Yes.
He was one of my mentors because when I read his book, I really connected with it. And then I did some workshops that with people that knew him. I didn't know him because he died at a young age. And then I asked some spiritual healers, why? First of all, how could a man write a book this profound?
That's a stereotype you got broken right there, right?
He wrote this book in his early 30s. And I've written books in my 30s, but not a book like this. This book had gazillions of pearls of information.
Yeah. And
what spiritual healers told me that basically it was delivered to him spiritually, down coded to him. And then when I met Tommy Rosa, when he went to heaven and everything, and blah, 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 I mean, anything is possible, anything is possible. But that's a great book for somebody like yourself who's involved in the energy medicine, especially chakra work.
Yeah.
His description of the chakras, it's landmark. It's incredible.
Wow, this is great. There was somebody that I was looking at. I thought his last name was Gerber, but maybe I'm confusing him with somebody else. But no, we've done a lot of work with, I don't know if you know Michelle Lamassa Schrader. Now she's Michelle Lamassa Dawson. And, but anyway, she does recall healing. And she's a friend of the show, of the class, of the school, of the classroom. She's a friend of the classroom. And she's coming back on, we're going to do a class together for Mother's Day. So it's going to be next week. And we're going to talk about how to heal because, we love our mothers. And, I always say that we're all teachers and we're all students. And we can learn what not to do or what to do from our family and our people that we love, and you can learn what to do, what not to do. So we're going to talk about how to heal that. And we're going to get Margaret Paul in the classroom as well. And she does the inner child work. And so, I really do believe that the emotional component of our life is so neglected. And what I love about you, Dr. Sinatra, is that is just as powerful for you, as just as important to you as the CoQ10. That you have found that is just invaluable in somebody's life. So thank you so much for that. You are just an incredible man. So you're quiet. Are you thinking or?
No, I'm just taking it in.
You're truly a wonderful man. Okay, guys. Thank you, Dr. Sinatra, for all the time that you've given us, and to know that you were in another show, and right at noon, you just got in here, and you just MacGyvered it today. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Now, I want to encourage you all to go visit Dr. Sinatra's website. It's drsinatra.com. That's drsinatra.com. But he also can be found at heartmdinstitute.com and healthydirections.com. So where can they find, can they go to Vervana? Is there Vervana.com?
There's Vervana.com.
There's Vervana.com.
There's
so if you want to learn.
Agelesspause.com. Ageless Pause, PAWS. That's where I reach out to my four-legged friends and I nurture.
Oh, yes. Yeah, when I went to the ACIM conference and I met your wife and your team that was there, I saw all the little doggy treats and all the things that you have there for. What kind of animals do you have?
Well, right now, none, unfortunately, because I'm on the road all the time. But eventually I'll probably get another pet.
Yeah. What's your preference?
Well, I'd like to get another chow.
Chow. So big dogs, little dogs. I like little dogs. I used to have a Maltese.
They're about 40 to 50 pounds.
Whoa. Yeah. My dog was Max. But when I was looking for him, it had to be 5 pound Max. And that's his name. It became 5 pound Max. So
I want to tell you one product I've been working on. I'm sort of excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
How we talked about the Mediterranean diet and
Mm-hmm.
olive oil extending life and,
Mm-hmm.
pro-inflammatory genes, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm working with a Scandinavian researcher where I can take cod liver oil, omega-3, and mix it with olive oil. And I'm putting it in individual packs, so they're black. So it's 1 pack per serving. So the light doesn't get in and the air doesn't get in. But you put it over your dog's food because now it gives the dog omega-3 and olive oil. And they're potent anti-inflammatories for the canine and the feline as well. And, I've been doing taste tests for this myself, but there's rosemary in there, there's vitamin E in there, there's antioxidants to protect the oil in individual packets. And
wow.
It's kind of fun working with pets. I really enjoy it because, again, as a heart specialist in a previous, broadcast, pets bring so much, to human aliveness, and they make people survive as well. So it's my way of giving back to pets. I really enjoy it.
I tell you what, I truly learned unconditional love from Max because I would accidentally step on him or, get upset with him. And he never held a grudge. And he would come back and love me no matter what I did. And I had this image. I always thought, if reincarnation does exist, because, and I know that some people as a Christian will say, oh, I can't believe you would even say that. Well, I don't know what I don't know. All I know is that if reincarnation did exist, before we go to heaven, we come back as a dog because only dogs have the most perfect disposition. They're loving and kind and they don't talk back at you. They don't, they go straight to heaven after they're gone. So I would say if the dogs are just like little angels on earth ready to go to heaven, until.
Did you see the movie, The Art of Driving in the Rain?
No.
Write that down. You must, Lillian McDermott.
Yes.
You must see this movie. Kevin Costner is the voice of the dog. And I'm not going to tell you the ending. I'm not going to tell you the story, but you must. Is it on Netflix or do I have to buy it? Yeah. Oh yeah, it's on Netflix and stuff like that. We'll watch it this weekend. We'll watch it this weekend. It's on Netflix. It's on one of those paid channels or something. The Art of Driving in the Rain. It's a race car movie with a dog. It is phenomenal. Is it going to make me cry? Yes. Did it make you cry? Yes.
Win-win, win-win. A great movie that'll make you cry is going to make a better you. I mean, if you heard anything today, is that it's okay to cry, because like I had said in the earlier quote from Dr. Mosley, I don't know if I said his name correctly, the sorrow which has no vent in tears may make other organs weep. And that's from Henry Maudsley. And I will tell you, I would take out, if I were to redo that quote, I would say, take out the may, will make other organs weep. He was like ahead of his time. In the 1900s, 1913 is when he passed, but way ahead of his time to know how important the emotional component is to health. So, any final words before we go, Dr. Sinatra?
No, I think we did enough damage today, Lil.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you with all the food I'm going to be eating in the next time we see each other. We're going to be exploring all the Vervana food, and all of you, who knows, we might even give some stuff away. So stay tuned.
I'll send you some risotto too. I have the world's best risotto.
Awesome.
With artichoke buds for the liver. But anyway, you'll see it.
I am looking forward to my little care package. Okay, guys.
Wait.
There's another real quick question. Myrna, you came in too late. Okay, hold on a second. What edition of vibrational medicine is the one to get? So many out there.
You mean Richard Gerber's book?
Yeah.
Any edition would suffice. I would get it.
Okay. Now I'm going to give equal opportunity. What do you think of flax oil?
Oh, it's okay. I mean, I'm not going to throw it under the bus. I like flaxseed oil. Just remember, it'll oxidize very quickly. It has to be in the dark bottle, and using small amounts, no problem at all.
Should you put olive oil in the refrigerator so it'll last longer?
Some people have done that. Then you have to wait until it, thaws out and everything. We use black bottles. And they're very narrow bottles. We don't use a wide bottle, for example, because then more light can penetrate it. But basically, the secret to olive oil is use your bottle up within 60 to 90 days.
Ooh.
Use a bottle a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, I use a lot of olive oil. I douse my salads. I put it on, some organic chickens. I'll put it on pasta. I just really douse it.
Now, is it okay for you to give out your age? Do you give out your age?
My age?
Yeah, you said you've been doing this for a long time. I can't imagine your age.
Well, I look my age. I'm going to be 75 in October.
No, you don't. You look, but healthy wise, you're probably a 40-year-old, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Sinatra. Thank you guys for watching today. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Hope you will tune in.
Lillian.
Bye. Thank you.